Hi, this is Dr. Therese with Healthy Choice Family Chiropractic. And first, I would like to thank you guys for listening to this webinar and for taking this time to make this commitment towards improving your health. So tonight we're going to talk about allergies, but to really understand them, and we need to first talk about our immune system and how our immune system develops. Now, I'll definitely bring things full circle, but this is where these issues really start. To take it back one step further, we want to start with the body signals description. So what is it, and where is this terminology coming from? Body signals is what we call symptoms, and that is because we acknowledge that the body is innately intelligent. So the body signals or symptoms is one of the ways that your body communicates with you. So we should respect it and listen to our symptoms. With that being said, symptoms are body signals, and they're an underlying sign that there is a bigger problem. They are not the problem in itself. If you have a headache and you take an aspirin or a drug to make that headache go away, the bigger question would be, why did we have this headache to begin with? Because it wasn't an aspirin deficiency. If we look at how people are treating their health today, they're actually not treating their health, but more so managing their symptoms. What we are seeing is in this culture of pharmaceutical use and a culture of treating our symptoms, and that's just frankly no longer good enough. So when looking at this body signal graphic, I like to use an iceberg, because when you typically see an iceberg, you just see what's on the surface, which is a small comparison to the 90% of what's below the surface. This is a perfect metaphor for symptomatology, because if you look at this, you would recognize that at the surface, the iceberg is huge, and you wouldn't even be aware of what's going on underneath. If we were to approach it from a medical perspective, we would just cut off the top of it and call it successfully treated because we couldn't see it anymore. While that iceberg underneath is still there and just continues to grow. So 90 days later, if those symptoms come back, then we're wondering, okay, what happened? But underneath, that problem has just gotten even bigger overall and even bigger with time. So typically means we're just struggling with our symptoms while the actual problem continues to get bigger. So let's talk about the immune system. What is its purpose? So your immune system works intimately with your nervous system to essentially help you to relate to your internal and external environment. There is a complex symphony that is going on all the time that's protecting us and helping us adapt readily and appropriately to the shifts and changes. So you can think of your immune system like the armed forces. So what do we have in the armed forces? We have the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, the Navy, Coast Guard. So we have these huge bodies of specialists that operate on different levels to protect us and help people in need. What the armed forces does for the U.S. is similar to what our immune system does for us too. Your nervous system acts as the communication system for all of this. So you can't separate the nervous system and the immune system. They work intimately together. So its job is to help protect you and help you relate to your environment. So how does this work? Essentially, your body is always on alert for invaders. So if there is something inside your body that is not supposed to be there, your body has a whole cascade of chemicals and neurological responses to that. Usually it works along beautifully and you have no idea that it's even happening, whether it's fighting off a bacterial infection or a viral infection, or just responding appropriately to pet dander, pollen, or spider bite. It's all responding to our environment. Or even fighting off cancer. Did you know that at any given moment, or really all given moments, that we're fighting and identifying cancer cells? That's your immune system. You have magnificent system, and it's totally subconscious. And most of the time, you have no idea that it's at war. That's really when you're at harmony with your environment. So that's essentially how it works. So how does your immune system develop? Well, you're going to understand the immune system a little bit better if you use some real-time developmental issues. So with the next slide, sometimes people will think, well, I blew it. I blew it myself and I blew it with my kids. I don't want you to think that. But if I don't teach you this, then I'm not doing my job that we set out to do here tonight. Because when most people talk about prevention, they are not really talking about prevention. When someone was talking about a colonoscopy or a breast exam, is that really prevention or is that early detection? That's early detection, right? Which leads to what? Early intervention. So cutting skin moles off is not prevention. It's early detection and early intervention. Prevention would be wearing sunscreen, long sleeve white shirts, and wide brim hats and staying out of the sun from 11 to 2. That's prevention. So let me teach you how magnificent you and your body is in this amazing design that's taken eons of times to develop and continues to develop with our immune system, and how it's a legacy that then we pass on from generation to generation, allowing our immune system to get smarter and moms to pass that on to their children. Then we'll talk about how this relates to allergies. So natural development. So how is the immune system naturally developed? Well, we are born genetically and pre-programmed with a lot of our immune system intact, but then there's a process of development with our immune system that takes a lot of training similar to the armed forces. So when you take a kid out of high school and you throw him or her into boot camp, what do they do first? Well, they run, they go into physical training so that they can become physically equipped. Then they go into combat training with hand-to-hand combat, and then they progress to using knives and rifles and machine guns and bigger tools. It's all a training process so that you can become more and more specialized. Could you imagine if they took that kid right out of high school and put him on the front lines and bypassed all of that training? This is typically what we're doing to children today, and I will help you understand how that is. This just takes a couple minutes, so bear with me. So here is the natural boot camp that we go through as babies, starting with a vaginal delivery. Did you know that when a child is delivered, the child is exposed to the mother's normal, natural flora? Guess where a lot of your normal flora lives? Well, it's in the reproductive tract and your digestive tract. So the mother will actually expose her child to normal flora from the reproductive tract as the baby comes through the birth canal. It is part of the natural exposure that helps to build the normal flora in the baby's gut. So your normal flora is your friendly bacteria that lives inside your mucosal lining, digestive tract, and reproductive tract. You have more bacteria in your gut than you even have cells in your whole body. 150 trillion friendly bacteria that live in your gut as part of your immune system. And this all starts with the natural vaginal delivery. Then we go from that to breastfeeding. Most of the constituents of breast milk, beyond just nutrition and energy, are the immune system components. There's a massive body of research that has come out to let us know just how magnificent this system is. Did you know that a woman can even communicate with her child through her nipple as to what the child needs to have the best response in regards to their immune system? So the child will communicate with the mother will change her breast milk day to day to meet the needs of that child, both nutritionally and in regards to their immune system. How brilliant is that? But unfortunately, instead of 1 to 2 years of breastfeeding, the typical child that we are seeing today is breastfed for a few weeks or a couple months. So they're missing out on a lot of this development. Now, childhood illnesses. So a child will go through the regular process of exposure. And if you've ever been around little ones, you see that they can frequently get runny noses or ears fired up or goopy eyes. And this is by design. You see, this is the boot camp and the basic training of the immune system. The design of the body is to take this baby when in a safe environment and expose it to in a very limited way, all of which stimulates the immune system and teaches it to respond appropriately and readily to anything that is getting into the body. So what's the body do to build this system? Well, let's just watch a baby. If you see that baby on the ground and there's something in front of them, what do they do with it? Well, they grab that object and bring it right to their mouth. So why is this? Well, the baby's body innately knows that it needs to build an immune response. So the baby puts those things in their mouth as a way to get the bacteria that was on that object into their digestive tract, where the good bacteria lives, so that they can build a response to it. Also, when the baby is cutting teeth, there's another portal of entry this time to your immune system via the baby's blood. This allows an immune response to be created. So it's training the immune system to respond. So what happens if the kid gets feverish or mucousy? So what do we need to do? Well, that fever is there for a purpose. Our body has figured out that it can heat up and kill off bacteria and even viruses, and the fever is part of that natural immune response. So what do we see in unnatural development? That typically starts with a C-section. It is absolutely necessary sometimes, but in 2016, over 31% of all births were C-section. and we typically see that number continuing to rise. Formula. So a lot of kids, we are skipping breastfeeding altogether, and this is reaching a crisis level. But fortunately, we are seeing a resurgence of breastfeeding. And this is one of the most important things a mom can ever do for her baby. And it is a full-time job in itself. Trust me, I know I am currently breastfeeding almost 8-month-old, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment, and even can be really frustrating at times. So I really believe that moms deserve all the credit for this. So we want to make sure that at any time it's possible that we are working on getting our child that breast milk. Interference and medication. They are running interference in the system that we are designed to help the child develop their immune system, and we're interfering with it. Whether it's an antibiotic or trying to bring down a fever, we are interfering with the child's training process to help build that natural immune system. I just read some research on how there's a huge correlation in a child developing asthma or allergies if the child has been exposed or given an antibiotic under the age of 1 year old. Now, there's a time when medication is needed, but once again, at what rate? And next, the hygiene hypothesis. What research is showing is that the genetic component when it comes to allergies is not as large as once thought. And that is because the rate of allergies is going through the roof and our genome is not really changing. So what they are understanding now is that lifestyle and behaviors plays an even bigger role. What we are seeing now is that we become a culture of sterilization and our sterilization of our environment, which has gotten really worse than ever. I mean, how many people are constantly reaching for Purell or other hand sanitizers? It has happened so much that this next generation sees Purell as part of their immune system. And this has hit such catastrophic levels with the pandemic that the CDC has even come out and said that we are over sanitizing and it's causing us to weaken our immune system for the future. We are raising kids in such a sterile environment that they are not developing their immune system. And now they're walking around with these weakened immune systems, causing them to become hypersensitive. And they know this is true because kids who are raised on farms statistically have less allergies because they're around animals and dirt all the time, which helps their immune system be trained properly. Also, kids who are raised in a multi-child household statistically have less allergies because with the multiple children, they are exposed to each other and to other things all the time, which once again allows the immune system to grow and develop more. So I see allergies as behavioral problems. Have you ever heard of the expression of your stomach acting up? Or if you look at behavioral problems with a kid, is it ever just one thing that's causing it? No, it's a lot of elements that all come together and end up creating this behavioral problem. It's always multifaceted. It's the same thing here when it comes to allergies. It's a behavioral issue. What's happening here is your immune system is misbehaving. Essentially, it is hypersensitive and it's misbehaving in its response. Essentially, you can think of it like a large glass of water. We all have certain tolerance level, just like the glass has a water line in it. Each of our glasses of water can be at different levels, but that glass can only hold so much before it starts to spill over. Our body and our immune system works the same way. Wherever your glass is at your preloaded state for your immune system. Then what happens when we walk into a room, there's a dog or pollen in the sky or dust under the bed, it can cause your cup to spill over. This is essentially the response that we're seeing in people because all of these elements, so dust mites, dander, pollen, they all can be seen into the body as toxins, and then they can stimulate an immune response. So the question is that an appropriate response? Well, if you start with an empty cup, and then you walk into a room, in any of those situations, there's no problem. The pollen can fly and it doesn't matter. You still have an immune response. It's just at a subclinical level, meaning that you're not showing symptoms. So the question you should ask yourself is, what can I do to empty my cup? So what can I do to have a greater tolerance? Well, we have to decrease our stressors. So what are some of these stressors? Well, you think of toxins, we think of air pollutants, like cigarette smoke is a big one. And then as an example of a toxin, when we're continuously exposed to it, it's going to cause our cup to fill up quicker. Allergens, we can talk about hay fever, pollen. Those are people who have those seasonal allergies, And when they're experiencing the watery, itchy eyes, runny nose, these are people come to the office and like, oh, doc, the pollen. Uh, but if pollen was the sole cause of our issues, then everyone would be experiencing these allergies. So for dietary stressors, well, we have to think of what is in our diet. Most Americans eat a very pro-inflammatory diet. Things like white sugar, white flour, highly processed foods, and high carbohydrate diet. Also dairy. Dairy is a big mucus builder and increases inflammation in our body. We'll talk about this just a little bit more at the end. Then there's a neurological component that could be lowering our threshold. So basically lowering what your body can handle and cause our cup to fill up and run over quicker. So what do we commonly see when we check someone's spine who has allergies? Well, we commonly see that they have something going on in their spine or some subluxations or nerve irritations in the upper part of their neck, so towards the base of the skull and at the lower part of their neck. Now, I'd love to say that is always a cookie cutter recipe, but thousands and thousands of cases show us that there is a correlation. This creates a chemical problem because it will affect the area in your body that creates histamine. So have you ever heard of an antihistamine, right? That's typically what's in most allergy medications. And that's because histamine creates an immune response associated with inflammation and mucus production. So we perform adjustments to the spine to change how those nerves are working so that it can allow us to build more of our tolerance to our environment around us and essentially dump some of the water out of our cup or just make that cup bigger to begin with. Now, as a side note, most people are walking around severely dehydrated, and that's why we talk about making sure that we're drinking enough water. Now, water is the strongest antihistamine. That's just one of the reasons why it's so important to make sure that we are well hydrated. You should be drinking at least half your body weight in ounces of water a day. So this is what we do to change that tolerance. We correct subluxations through this three-legged stool of healing. Chiropractic adjustments are performed in a rhythm so we can get that healing going and change how our nerves are functioning. We'll talk about bad habits with an individual. These bad habits can be creating that subluxation to begin with. So we need to break that pattern if we want to break our bad health patterns and if our goal is to be essentially healthy. Then we also give exercises to strengthen the muscles that support your spine so you can hold your adjustments better. So you may be looking for some additional things that you can do to help to unload your cup or just help to raise your threshold for your body. Now, obviously, we talked briefly about how chiropractic care and improving the function of your nervous system and therefore your immune system, because that's really the initial building block for that. Because like we talked about how allergies show that we have some immune system dysfunction and we need our immune system to function better. But let's say your immune system was at deficiency from the start and you weren't breastfed an infant. I mean, I know I wasn't. Or your child was born via C-section, which does happen. What can we do to help supplement for what we missed out on? First, we can start by using probiotics. Probiotics are a beneficial, good bacteria that helps to improve your gut flora and therefore improve your immune system and immune response. Research has even shown that women who take probiotics during pregnancy significantly reduce their child's risk of developing allergies. If you don't want to take probiotics in a supplement, then you can also get probiotics through kombucha or other fermented foods. But contrary to popular belief, regular store-bought Danone yogurt or your Yoplait does not contain a good source of probiotics. You need something more than that. Essential oils. There are multiple essential oils that can be used to reduce inflammation, even inflammation in the sinuses. Diffusing eucalyptus oil can reduce inflammation in those sinuses. You can also make an allergy trio roller and roll that on your cheeks and temples. It's made up of a combination of lavender, lemon, and peppermint oils mixed with a carrier oil. So we do this to help to open up the sinuses and decrease inflammation in them also. So to make the allergy roller, you would just mix 5 drops of each of the oil in a 5 ml glass roller bottle. Fill that up with a carrier oil, such as grapeseed oil. Take that, and then you can roll that mixture on the cheeks and temples. Also, we do want to look at our diet. If you're eating we want to be eating an anti-inflammatory rich alkaline diet, which will help to reduce our inflammation in your body and help you beat those allergies. So that means staying away from white flours, sugars, dairy, processed foods, because these are all things that help to create inflammation in our body and also can feed the bad bacteria that your immune system is constantly working to fight off. And if your immune system is already working hard, that does not leave much room for those allergens before your cup runs over and you are no longer at a subclinical level. But eating a lot of those green leafy vegetables, fruits, lemons, and lemon water, those are all things that can help to reduce that inflammation. Now, we briefly mentioned dairy. Dairy is a mucus builder for many of us. And if we're already all snotty from our allergies, then we really want to stay away from that dairy because that could just make things worse, especially during that time. Now, like we already talked about, we want to make sure that you're drinking enough water because water can reduce the histamine reaction and therefore reduce allergies that those systems may be dealing with. Another idea is to eat 1 tablespoon of local raw honey a day, ideally honey that was produced within 40 miles of where you live. And this can help to build tolerance and to some of the pollen that can be running amok on your sinuses. So what if you're working on rebuilding your immune system and reducing your stress, but you still need some additional help right now? What additional things can you do? So D-Hist is a supplement that we carry in our office. It's a natural antihistamine, so it does not contain the same chemicals or been shown to have the potential negative side effects of a typical antihistamine or allergy medication. Vitamin C, that has been shown to be a very powerful antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. One study done in 2000 showed that taking 2 grams of vitamin C a day acted as an antihistamine. Also, and I always mess up how to pronounce this last one. So quercetin, sorry, I know that is incorrect pronunciation, is another antioxidant found in many plants and foods. One study even found that it can help to reduce the respiratory effects of allergies by lowering airway inflammation. So if you have any questions about how or need any additional ideas of how to help you get rid of your allergies, or if you have questions about anything that we spoke about today in this presentation, you can definitely feel free to contact our office at 616-426-8500 to set up a consultation to discuss how we can help you not only reduce your reduce your reaction to allergies and boost your immune system, but also help to improve your overall health. You can contact us at 616-426-8500 or email us at info@healthychoicefamilychiropractic.com. And if you do not live in the West Michigan area but are still looking for that information, still feel free to contact us and we'll find a way to hook you up with a chiropractor in your area. Have a great day and thanks for listening.